Hello and welcome to the Beat Cancer Answer, brought to you by BeatCancer.Org, the Center for Advancement in Cancer Education. We believe that 90% of all cancers could be eliminated through environmental and lifestyle choices alone, and science agrees. Unfortunately, most people don't know it, so we provide the education that can help you prevent, cope with, and beat cancer through diet, lifestyle, and other immune-boosting approaches. On every podcast, we will feature an expert who can teach us how to become part of that 90% who could prevent getting diagnosed with cancer. If you already have cancer, we have empowering information for you too. Over the past 35 years, we have helped thousands of cancer patients get back into the driver's seat when it comes to their personal journey of healing cancer and preventing future reoccurrence.
Join us as Debbie Melamed, Director of Community Outreach, interviews Jared and Lisa Bucey on Jared's amazing natural recovery from stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Today we have a very compelling story. Jared Bucey, otherwise known as Kid Against Chemo, is here with his mother Lisa. Jared had a heart transplant at 4 months of age and was diagnosed at 16 years of age with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. After receiving 1 round of chemotherapy, Jared decided he would go against doctor's orders and pursue a natural course of healing instead. He is cancer-free at 19 years of age and wants others to know his story so they can listen to their hearts and make the best choice for themselves if they are facing cancer. You can find Jared and Lisa on Facebook at Kid Against Chemo and on YouTube and on the web at loveyourself.loveyourhealthnaturally.com. Jared has also written a book called My Life Through My Eyes, which can be ordered on their website. So welcome, Jared, and welcome, Lisa. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and I'm excited for you to share your story and all that you have learned on your healing journey.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, thank you.
So this is kind of a long story, and it starts with Jared at 4 months of age. Why don't you tell us from the beginning your story?
So at 4 months of age, I was diagnosed with a rare heart defect called hypoplastic left heart, which means the left side of my heart is never formed. So then I had a heart transplant, and everything was fine for the most part. I got ill a lot easier because the heart medicine lowers my immune system, and so but that was really the only thing until I was 16,
right?
And then I was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and so
So you had a pretty normal life up until then.
Oh yeah, for the most part.
And did you have symptoms? What led up to the diagnosis? Were you having some symptoms?
Yeah, I had I had gotten really bad pain in my stomach, so bad that I couldn't even sit or lay down, and so, you know.
He actually called me at work. We had just come back from a routine appointment, remember, Jared, with your heart transplant. Like, we had just come back from the hospital maybe a week before, and Jared used to get sick all the time when we used to go to the hospital because, of course, he'd pick up every germ there.
Right.
So I said, oh, Jared, you probably just have a stomach bug, and we were kind of, because he used to get, like Jared said, he got sick so easy. I said, you probably just have a virus, and I called the doctor, and they said the same thing, and then it got progressively worse, and he wasn't real sleeping at night, and he was running a fever, and then he called me one day at work. He's like, and Jared does not want to go to the doctor, especially then either, if he didn't have to because he was there so much. And he said, Mom, I think we're going to have to go to the hospital. Something's wrong. And when he said that, I knew, okay, we got to go. So that's when we rushed down and went in through the emergency room. Right. They had a heck of a time just getting IVs and stuff in him and all this other stuff. And that's when he finally got diagnosed. They took out his appendix, which they believe it saved his life, because they told us with Hodgkin's lymphoma, a lot of times they don't notice it until it's too late in the younger kids. But because one of the tumors was lodged up against the appendix, it was pushing and causing so much pressure, it was like a warning sign for him.
Oh,
so
wow.
They removed the appendix. When they removed the appendix is when they found one of the biggest tumors. He had a tumor, one of them was 10 centimeters.
Oh, wow.
So that's what encouraged them to do a PET scan and see what other, how far along he really was. So
this was all very sudden for you then.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had an appendix removed, the first night, and then after that, it was like they did the PET scan, and then they came in the next day and they said, your son has stage 4 cancer.
Oh,
so
I can't imagine.
It was really, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, how quick before they started chemo? It was the day after they wanted to start chemo, so Jared didn't even have time to recover from the appendectomy. And so why don't you tell him about that?
Yeah, they didn't even really let me think or feel on it. They were just very much in a rush pushing the chemo, and so I did one round, and just with that one round, I had gotten a really bad bone and muscle pain, so bad that I actually was practically paralyzed from like anywhere like below the neck.
We had to carry him everywhere. He couldn't even walk. That's how bad it was.
I had really, really bad sores all throughout my mouth and my throat, so bad that I could barely eat or brush my teeth. Every time I would do that, my gums would actually bleed, and if I try to eat something, I would usually vomit it back up.
He lost 16 pounds in 2 weeks.
So this one round was about 2 weeks?
Yeah, a normal round they'd tell you is almost a month, but they weren't even able to complete it because it was basically just killing his immune system. And keep in mind now, additionally, Jared is on this medication called cyclosporin that lowers his immune system. So we had that going on, which so when we started it, they told us, you could be an outpatient, and we were in the hospital that whole 3 weeks. I mean, right, Jared? It was excruciating to watch. I mean, he couldn't keep anything down, not even any liquids, which was challenging for us because he had a heart transplant. He was also in and out of kidney failure, and had been for years, and because the cyclosporin affects your kidneys. And it also can cause cancer. So you trade one evil for another, so that's when they gave us what they called a kidney-friendly diet in the hospital, and they started feeding our son chicken nuggets and Cheetos and applesauce and pudding,
Jello,
and that's when I started doing my research, because it was about that time we started questioning everything. And I was just starting to research a little bit on holistic and organic eating and stuff like that at that time, because I had gotten sick through work and gotten a mold exposure. And so I was trying to get well from a mold exposure. So I was battling my own health problems, and I wasn't getting any answers from the doctors. So I had just, like a month before this, a month before we got, right, Jared, you were diagnosed, we switched to organic eating. And we had started cutting sugar out of our diet and all this stuff, and my health started improving. And I know now that I got sick to help Jared.
Exactly.
And, so we I had started the research, and I'm like, he's not eating any of this. And so my husband and I would actually go out of the hospital, go to the organic stores in that area, and we would get fresh food and bring it in for Jared and juice. We had to actually sneak the juicer in the bathroom, and I would turn on the hairdryer because they didn't want us to bring any electronics. And I would turn on the hairdryer and juice through we had a little NutriBullet portable thing that we would take, and I would turn the water on, and we would and that's how we would, at least get some stuff in him before we got him out of the hospital.
Because they were offering you, I saw on your Facebook page, they were offering him canned fruit, which canned is no good with the BPA, and high fructose corn syrup, chemicals, sugar, all the things that are not healing for cancer.
Right.
It's really shocking.
Yeah, it was the more you learn. In fact, Jared had, they were, telling him to eat more and stuff like that. He started getting angry, and he's like, I'm not eating that. And he doesn't remember a lot of that, right, Jared? Because he was on, telling me you were on 3 different pain medications, right?
Yeah, I was on from morphine to
Dilaudid,
oxycodone, and then like just like kind of like, I guess like the a usual pain stuff like Tylenol, things like that. But yeah, it was a lot of morphine and Dilaudid and stuff like that, and so my memory's gotten like a bit blurred, but over time it's slowly coming back. But it's definitely taking time.
Like he'll remember certain things and he'll say, "Did that happen, Mom?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, that was real." Especially when he was writing his book, he was asking different things that was coming back to him. But they would actually they had a pain pump next to him, where you can actually push it, and they encourage him to push it. And I actually pushed it away because he told me, "I don't want it, Mom." He's like, "This is actually making me where I can't remember things." And they kept telling him when he was kind of being opinionated and telling me, "Mom, I don't want this. I want to go home." That's when they started increasing the pain medication. They said, "Oh, he needs to be more comfortable, and he needs to be quiet." One lady told him that he was crying one of the nurses told him he was crying too loud, and if he didn't be quiet, they were going to give him more pain medication, which Jared does remember that. So there's certain things he remembers.
That's my book.
Yeah, he talks about
that. I'm just wondering, did the doctors tell you what to expect? Did you know that how this experience of chemotherapy was going to be? Did they tell you because of his heart transplant, his kidney issue, how this was going to affect him? Or was this all out of the blue surprise?
No, they actually said that it was going to be really easy and easier than a heart transplant.
Yeah, I was just going to say
what
that.
They said.
Yeah, I actually was very combative with them in the beginning because let's face it, as a society, you think cancer and you hear it on your child and you see a bald child standing in front of you, and I thought, oh my gosh, and they look sickly and their eyes are sunken, and I thought that's not going to be my son, especially because Jared was kind of on the fence about it. And so I wanted to present them with a bunch of questions. So when they came in to talk to us, like Jared said, he said, if you can go through a heart transplant, this is going to be a cakewalk. And I said, well, my son has braces right now. I said, I'm doing a lot of reading that we should get these braces off because the gums can swell. He said, oh, no, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And then sure enough, after the first round, his gums were so swollen that
swelled over my teeth.
You couldn't even see his braces. That's how bad it was. And they were just gushing blood. They wouldn't even let him brush his teeth because of infection. And then, like he said, he had the sores throughout his GI system. And what he didn't share with you is the sores went all the way down through his anus. So it was hard for him to sit. I mean, they went through his entire GI system. So
I'm curious, when the doctors would come in to check on him then, and they saw this going on, what did they say to you?
Well, they told Jared that he's a fighter, that he's always fought, and not to give up now.
And they said that it'll pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they kept, saying, okay, this will happen with this side effect, with this medication. This is totally normal. But we saw our son wasting away. I mean, we had family members fly in from all over the country, and this is when Jared was telling me, Mom, I want to stop. If I'm going to die, I want to go home to die. I want to be around my family, my dogs, my friends. And so we had family members telling us he's going to die. I mean, it was just the change in him within 2 weeks was unbelievable. And, you picture having an appendectomy alone, and then you add in, his other health challenges, and now you're adding in chemotherapy. They wanted to do 4 rounds of chemotherapy and then 4 cycles of radiation afterwards. So that's what their plan was to do. originally.
So even though they saw him declining and going through this excruciating pain, they never said maybe we should stop or give him a break, or you felt like you had no other choices?
No, they didn't. We actually asked if they would release us from the hospital for a little while to give him a break, and they said they would stop the chemotherapy, but that we weren't allowed to leave the hospital. They said they would stop the cycle, and that's when they actually stopped it, because his white count was so low. It was in such dangerous range that he had no immune system. So they did stop the chemo, and they said, but we will continue it in a day or two. Let's just see how he's doing. Because literally, we left the hospital. The first time he had actually got the chemotherapy, it was supposed to be an outpatient, and then we never left after that, because within hours, we were driving back down there and going through the emergency, because he was running like high fevers of like 105, 106, and his port kept getting infected, and it was a nightmare. It was the worst experience, to watch him go through.
As a mother, that must have been extremely difficult.
Yes, and
I can't even imagine.
I was very disappointed in the doctors, only for the fact that we had always had good relationship for the most part of doctors. Keep in mind, Jared was born in conventional medicine. I mean, he really was.
Right.
He had a rare heart defect. It wasn't picked up in utero. I was a young, healthy person. Back then, they didn't think that there was any extra testing that needed to be done. So, we had made a choice of this heart transplant, which what are the chances of a 4-month-old getting a heart transplant? So
right.
He grew up with EKGs. He grew up going to the hospital. We knew all the nurses. We always had that friendly, camaraderie with the hospital team. So it was totally different, though, when we started questioning the medical community, because Jared and I will tell you that and our family, we always went along with whatever they said. And it wasn't until that the light bulb went off, and I think what I was going through on my health journey, that we both started saying, wait a minute, this I don't think is the right choice for us. That's
right.
When we realized, wow, we're getting into a combative situation now at this point. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is, yes, when you start asking questions, that's when you become the bad guy.
Right.
That's what we were doing. We were just asking questions. And I said to the oncologist when he did interview us telling us about chemotherapy, I said to him, well, let's just face it. We all know that chemotherapy is poison. So you're going to pump poison through my son's veins. What are you going to do to boost his immune system? And he stared at me. Yeah. And he said, well, we have a nutritionist that will come in for that. And that's when they started bringing in the chicken nuggets and all the other stuff.
So clearly you felt that this was not working and only making him worse. What happened next then?
Then I just stopped. I felt, I felt the need to stop, and so I did. And I went to natural holistic medicine, and I ate all organic, and I did the infrared sauna. I juiced probably every vegetable you can think of.
Rebounding.
Yeah,
and
rebounding.
So you were home at this point then?
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, he doesn't remember too much of that point, but he said to us that he didn't want to do it anymore. We were at here's another gift that we were given, because they had come in and they told us that if we stopped chemotherapy, Jared would be dead in 6 months. And they said this would be his last Christmas. So this was basically in August when we left the hospital. We were talking about it as a family, and I had just left my job. I quit my job, which my insurance was under Jared was under me. So this was the end of August. They said, we're going to take a little break and have you guys talk about it, because Jared was so combative and he wasn't, and his health was failing. And they said, we'll start chemo again in a few days. And in that time, I said, okay, so we have no days that we're doing testing or anything. So I said, I went out to the nurse's station. I said, we're leaving the hospital. I mean, we started unplugging them and everything else. And she said, who gave you permission to leave? And I said, I did.
my son wants to go home. Now, I had no idea that might possibly be a problem. You just always think that if your son is coherent enough to talk about it and say he wants to leave, and he was almost 17 years old at this point, that there wouldn't be an issue. So we went ahead and the nurse came in, and she said, well, someone's going to come in and talk to you. And I have a feeling at that point, if I would have had insurance still, there would have been an issue. But then they came back in, they said, we just tried to run your insurance card and it's not working. And I said, well, yeah, I just quit my job last week because you told me my son has 6 months to live. And she said, what are you going to do for insurance? And I said, I don't care. Now, I didn't tell them that he was going on my husband's insurance because, there's like a lapse, like a week lapse before that happens. And I actually, to be honest, didn't even think about it because all I'm thinking about is getting Jared home. So I believe that's why they let us go home, because they couldn't bill our insurance. And so we left pretty quickly and got in the car, but unfortunately he still had the port in, and we would have to get that port removed. So they told us that, what?
The PICC line.
Yeah, the PICC line, sorry. And so we went ahead and we had to schedule that to go back down, which was a terrifying experience. And we did go back down. They put us in a small room in an outpatient, and they came in as a team, and they looked at Jared and they said, Jared, before we take this port out, you know the consequences? And he said, yes. And this is probably maybe a week or so after we left the hospital. Yeah, probably a week or two. And Jared was starting to he wasn't on any pain meds, and he was starting to kind of come out of the clouds a little bit, and he was actually walking in the mailbox, and I was already starting to juice with him, so he was already starting to feel better. And they said to him, well, so you know that you will die. And he said, have you ever held your breath underwater, Jared? Have you ever been in a pool? And Jared says, yeah. And he goes, well, you know what it's like to hold your breath underwater? And Jared's like, yeah. And he goes, well, that's what it's going to feel like to die from this cancer. You won't be able to come up for air, though. And when he said that, I looked at my husband like, did he just say that to him? Like, you were in shock. I was just in shock of kind of how we were being bullied. And Jared looked at them and said, I want you to leave. I don't believe that. And so I looked at the doctors like, you need to give us some time, because I just still couldn't believe they said that. And he walked out, the team walked out, and I looked at Jared, and he started crying. He says, Mom, I know I can die, but is it going to feel like that? I said, Jared, they don't know. I said, if this is what your wishes are, we will make you comfortable no matter what happens. I said, we can get pain medication. You can be in the home. You'll be comfortable. This is your decision. And so he thought about it a little bit. Then they came back in, and he didn't say anything else to them. And the doctor said, you still want us to remove it? And he said, yes. And they removed it. And then they said, well, we want you to sit here and wait for a little while. We have somebody that wants to come and talk to you. And at that immediate moment, I did not feel good. I felt sick to my stomach. I felt like we needed to get out of there. Had no idea, the consequences that the younger people go through with having that medical right. And I looked at my husband and said, we got to go. So we actually opened up the door, and we knew our way out and just snuck out. And we left.
That's great. Wow.
And that's when his healing started happening. But not to go into it too much, but we did have issues with them questioning our medical rights. And we had the doctors calling us and harassing my husband at work, and telling us that we legally needed to get back down to the hospital, that it was our legal right to have our son treated. I always give the advice to young parents, if forget about having life insurance for your kids, you should get a passport, because I did not have one at the time, and I was terrified. And we had a few big organizations that jumped in and kind of rallied for Jared. And also, I think what helped us was that he was very close to being 18.
Okay.
And
I don't think people realize in this country that you don't have a right. If they want you to have chemotherapy, they will take your child and make them a ward of the state if you disagree.
Yeah, it was terrifying. My husband kept saying, they can't do that. They were like, we're tax-abiding citizens. He's like, we're good people. We don't have a record. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, they could take him. And after researching and different organizations, and a real good website is medicalkidnap.com, We do a lot of work with them, and the stories are compelling of what is going on with your not having the choices with your child. And I had no idea, but I was going with an instinct and a feeling when he said, wait here. I believe that's when they were getting the investigation started, because after that, we never went back down, and we were getting call after call after call. That was when we were home in September. They wanted, even though they told us that Jared would be dead by Christmas, they wanted him to go through a heart biopsy and a PET scan all at once in December, the day before Christmas. Actually, it was December 23rd. And Jared said to them, I'm not doing that. He said, if you guys think I'm going to be dead in 6 months, why don't you wait to see if I'm still alive? So Jared was having...
So Jared's a pretty smart cookie and a pretty brave one, too.
Yes, he is.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
He actually went with a lot of this with intuition. He told me that when he was in the hospital bed, he said, Mom, I actually feel like I'm going to die. Like I'm being told I need to leave the hospital.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? He was coming in and out of consciousness, and there are thoughts of me that I think that a lot of times he wasn't here. When we brought him home, he was still so sick. I used to go in his room and wasn't sure if he was breathing. I used to crawl up next to him in bed, and my husband would say, are you coming to bed? I said, I'm sleeping here because I'm not sure if he's going to wake up in the morning. And I would just hold him because he didn't feel like he was in his body. And, I think he was drifting in and out of, that consciousness because he was so very ill. But, we did it, and we're here today, and I really believe that's for Jared and me to tell our story that, it can be done, and people just need to know of all the choices that are out there. Right, Jared?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And go with your heart.
So you did a lot of research. You started incorporating things. What type of things early on? You said the infrared sauna. You did a lot of juicing.
Yeah, when I started researching in the hospital, and I was taking my phone, and you sit there and you research. So the first thing I researched was the juicing, then of course the clean eating. Now keep in mind, we left the hospital, so we had no doctors, not even a cardiologist at that point, because they were all affiliated with one hospital. So I was terrified, and I'm looking for a doctor in our area. And every doctor that we went to told us we were crazy. We went to one doctor, and he looked at Jared straight in the face and said, you're going to die. So nobody would take Jared's case. So I was like, heck with it. So by the time I found a doctor, we were already juicing. We had gotten a rebounder. Just so happened that our friend had a far infrared sauna that they weren't using. And I researched that, and he goes, oh, I heard you want a sauna. Yeah, we can bring it over to the house. So he was already in the sauna. He was starting to I would tell him, okay, Jared, you can't go back to the house until you drink this 12 ounces of juice, because he had no appetite. So we would walk down our block, and I would say, come on, you can drink this, then we'll turn around and go back home. So we would start encouraging him with things like that. Mainly, he wasn't eating anything because, again, like I said, he had no appetite, but he was juicing about 64 ounces of juice a day. And that's how we started. It was just those few things. And then as he got stronger, we did lymphatic massages. He did grounding. He got out in nature, which he still does. He also still does a sauna. He still does the juicing. He still does everything. Yeah, you pretty much still do everything. The rebounding, because these are things now that he's learned to enjoy.
Of course.
Right, Jared? I mean, and I actually enjoy. I don't rebound as much as I should, to be quite honest, but I do get in the sauna quite a lot, which I didn't like in the beginning, and now I do, which I also learned helps when you have mold exposure.
Right, so you're detoxing then.
Yep. We did that. We of course supplements. So when we found, and I kind of knew his vitamin D was very, very low, and the doctors told me that had nothing to do with cancer. And I basically looked at him. I said, I'm putting my son on vitamin D. I think his vitamin D, if I remember, was like 19 or 9 or something really low, and mine was too, actually. So. But I needed a doctor to tell me how much. I needed a doctor to say, well, how much? How long should he be in the sauna? Or, because there's all these different things you read on the internet. And that's when we researched and found our naturopath. And she normally does not take kids under 18. But she said when she looked at us and saw our situation and saw what we were already doing, she actually looked at us in our first appointment and said, I'm not really sure what you guys need me for because you're doing everything already. Right. And I laughed and I said, I just need a coach. I need somebody to say, hey, you know, you're doing all you can. I need somebody to say, you need this much vitamin D. You need this much vitamin C. And because he had compromised kidneys, we couldn't do like IV vitamin C treatments and a lot of things that these traditional doctors will do. And so she was very in tune to what he needed. And he's actually healthier now, right, Jared, than you've ever been. He does follow a cardiologist, so he gets an EKG and an echo once a year. He does not do the heart biopsies that they used to do every 6 months. There's no need to do that. They were billing our insurance company $500,000 twice a year for those things. And he hated them. He hated the drugs they put in him and different things like that. There is a blood test for that now we know about that we didn't know then that wasn't shared with us by the doctors. That's a lot less invasive. So he does get blood work every, probably 3 or 4 weeks. He does see our naturopath. She follows him very closely. And tweaks his supplements when he needs it here and there. And, you know, he live a pretty simple life. You think his life is better now, right?
Oh, yeah. Ever since I started the natural treatment, I don't get sick like often like I did growing up.
Yeah.
So you know, that's definitely a really great thing.
We have him on a very low dose of the immunosuppressant drug. When he had cancer, it was kind of interesting. When they had cancer, they actually took his cyclosporin medication. They lowered it really low. And I said, is that safe to do? Because he was always on double that. And they said, oh, yeah, we're going to give his body a chance to fight the cancer because now we're giving him the chemo. So we never upped it after we left the hospital. And we've been watching him closely, and he's doing fine. So, again, that's been a chance to boost his immune system. And now Jared wants to get off of that, but we're being very careful, and we're researching other cardiologists, and we're kind of doing that. And Jared is being gracious and listening to me because I have that mom fear. But Jared is very happy and wants to go as much natural as he can.
Yeah, he has great intuition. So the cancer and even your mold toxicity has really given your family an opportunity to become educated and healthier in the end. I mean, it's just really amazing that this has all really helped you, even though you had such a trying journey.
Yeah, we tell people that cancer has actually been a blessing for us. My parents have turned over to natural treatment. My mom has had so much sickness in her life, and she's never been healthier since actually Jared and our story. My dad has turned to more natural treatment. I do part-time health coaching for our naturopath's office and encourage other people that are, you know, kind of overwhelmed in the beginning, and they are going the natural route, and they're like, well, this is a lot of work. And I said, not really. It's you just kind of change your lifestyle, but you take it one step at a time. You know, and they realize that, well, if you could do it, you know, we could do it. I don't know if I wasn't overwhelmed because when Jared had his heart transplant, he was on 19 medications.
Oh, okay.
And that was when he was 4 months of age. So I kind of, and then it got less, you know, as he was older, he was eventually only on like 4. And then when he had cancer, they just took him down to the 1. But for the heart. So I was never really overwhelmed, and I don't think Jared was either, right? Because
no,
he kind of grew up like that. So when he was on all the supplements, and then he had to do the sauna, and then he had to do the juicing and stuff, it became a way of life. And I told people, like, we just made a list, and then we went down the list, and when that item was done for the day, I checked it off. And then for the actual tumors that he had, we would do castor oil packs. And we would put them on to decrease them and also for the pain. And when the naturopath said, oh, let's do the castor oil packs, I thought, oh, great, one more thing. Like, where the heck am I going to fit this in? Because we were doing so much. There wasn't an hour in the day where I felt like I wasn't in the kitchen either grabbing a supplement or juicing with him or let's get in the sauna. But we fit it in. We just said, okay, it's another part of the puzzle. Let's just fit it in. And we wrote it down and we didn't forget it. We tell people all the time, cancer doesn't take a day off and you can't either. And the biggest thing we see is people don't follow their heart and then they stop doing that treatment. And I'll ask them, why did you stop that? And they'll say, geez, I don't know, I was scared. And then I decided to switch to this. And then they find that they're not doing so well. And I know Jared would agree about this, right? Like whatever you feel that you want to do, you have to do because that means you will live. You have all these people that, oh, my dad told me to do chemotherapy, or my husband wanted me to go natural and I didn't want to, or you really need to do what you feel you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to listen to your heart and decide what's right for you.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us what other things you do? I saw there was some energy healing, meditation. I know you get out in nature, which sounds like you must be out in the sun a lot, so you're helping to get that vitamin D too. You want to tell us some other things that you do?
Well, now what my routine probably tends to be is I get up and I get up and I do yoga, and then I meditate, and then I go for a nature walk, and then sometime during the day, whenever the sun is ready, I do that, and then I shower, and and then all throughout the day I'm taking supplements.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much how it is right now.
Jared, he does do when he also is getting ready. He's getting his own apartment now. He's doing a lot of work, and we do a lot of speaking at local events. He's got our good friend that's an energy healer that we, funny story too, things pop in when you need to. When Jared was dying, I was just grasping for straws, like what else can I throw in there? And I was reading about energy healing. One of my friends told me that I should have done it for my mold, and I didn't find anybody that I resonated with. And we found a gentleman that we ended up resonating with. And I took Jared down there when he was, when I was just starting to learn about natural medicine. So this was probably in September. He was released from the hospital in August. Jared went down right in September. And you love Alex, right? He's like, he's like family to him now. He totally changed our life. I kind of was like, energy healing. All right, well, whatever. It's one more thing, and Jared came out of the session from Alex, and he was a total different person. He acted like, he said, Mom, I have so much energy, I feel like I could punch a wall. And he was running down the sidewalk, and this is, like a few weeks after he got out of the hospital. And
wow.
Alex continued to work with him I guess we went down every few weeks in the beginning, right? Because Alex is now
like once a month.
Yeah, and we went down probably more than that in the beginning, but he's about an hour and a half from us, so that was like another drive for me. But I could see such a healing with Jared that I knew that this was an important piece of that puzzle. So before we even saw the naturopath, Jared was doing the energy work, and he actually told me that he could feel the cancer leaving his body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of was the mom, like, Jared, we got to have some testing done. We got to, check this out. I don't want you to get your hopes up. He had a tumor in his neck, and that was the one that I was worried about pushing on his airway. And we had gotten a thermography and blood test that showed that tumor was gone at that time. And I said, that's impossible. Can you flip him over and look again? And they were laughing at me. They're like, Lisa, it's gone. And I just was like, okay, so we developed a very good relationship with him, and he's actually taught Jared, right, a lot about meditation. He does his CD at night. He's just become a good friend of the family. He's actually taken sessions with my husband and I, and he does classes about meditation, how everybody can heal if you put yourself in the right mindset. And of course, as most of us adults in our life, especially me, Jared will tell you, I'm going every which way to Sunday. He's always telling me to calm down. He's always saying, Mom, don't worry. But us, especially when I've gone through with Jared, of course, I always worry. So we have had that assistance for somebody like me to realize that you got to let go, and you can't control everything.
Right.
So that has really helped us in our journey, even though Jared kind of already knew that. But Jared does a lot of energy healing now too, and done a lot of training classes with him. And
what type of energy healing is that? Is it a Reiki, or is it just putting hands on? Is it intuitive? What type of energy?
It's very similar to Reiki, but yeah, like you said, it's like you just, put your hands over, wherever, they feel they need it, and then, kind of like just tap into, the universe and the heavens, and then the energy just kind of comes through and out of you into them.
And I'll tell you a quick little story with, and everybody's different, but he's explained what, Alex does. There is Reiki and other things, but Alex does it as, he actually gave a free session to me. He said, you really need it, and I know you guys are strapped for money, and he goes, I'm going to give you a session. I was terrified. Jared was laughing at me. He's smiling right now because he remembers this. And he's like, Mom, you really need it. And I went back into the office, and they laid down. And for somebody that's never had it done before, of course, I was terrified. I'm like, what's going to happen? He said, just relax. Many people go to sleep. And I'll tell you, I got real relaxed, and I felt this energy going through my body, and I kind of opened up one of my eyes like, what the heck is going on? Sure enough, wherever his hands were, I could feel it go through my body and out my feet, and I have never felt anything like that in my life. And after the session was over, I came out, and Jared, I was always in the waiting room, and this time he's in the waiting room, and he looks at me like beaming, laughing, and he's like, how you doing, Mom? And I'm like, I can't believe what I just experienced. And he goes, yeah, I know. And we had actually stopped to get some vegetables to juice on the way home, and he goes, I am so glad you had that done because you really needed it. You were driving me nuts. And he said I was like a total different person, right, Jared, when I had that done? Yeah. It was something that if you have to experience it yourself and not be afraid. And I think, again, it's part of the puzzle with natural healing. Don't discount anything. We did, people say, oh, did you do a certain procedure? Did you do a certain protocol? And we did not, we just went with what we felt we needed and what Jared needed. And we were very open-minded. The biggest thing I tell people is just be open-minded. I mean, what's the worst that can happen, is that it doesn't work? Okay, but try everything. Try what's going to work best for you. And we were open-minded about this. I wasn't open-minded in the beginning, but I started seeing how it helped Jared, and I thought, well, okay. And then I thought when they asked me to try it, I thought, well, yeah, I kind of wanted to try it because I want to know what my son is going through.
It's incredible at such a young age, Jared, that you had such a strong feeling of what would work for your body, and that your mind was really so powerful at controlling your destination. You just seemed like you really knew what would work for you, and you believed it, and you made it happen. And you guys, as a team, really, you got it from all different angles. So it wasn't just the food or just the supplements, or you got the mind-body connection, and you got out into nature, and we're energetic beings. So you got it from that point of view and from every area. And I think it was just the belief that things were going to work, and you seemed like you just knew what was going to work for you and that you were going in the right direction. So I guess the mind is such a powerful thing.
Oh, yeah, it certainly
So
is.
you have to believe, right?
Yeah, I feel that when souls say the mind isn't just, the mind is body and soul as well. It's all three combined.
Right. So you developed
Jared is not 19. Anybody that meets Jared, they say, wow, you're only 19. And he tells people too, right? When you tell her about when you had the heart transplant, like how when he got diagnosed with cancer, he wasn't afraid. I was terrified. There wasn't a moment that he was afraid when he made the decision of going natural healing. He was afraid in the hospital, but when he connected that whole mind and body, right? How you tell it, you said it was one more thing, because right.
The cancer didn't really seem to be much for me because it was just one more thing, because I was so used to growing up with like the heart transplant and getting sick so often, and I've also been through a whole bunch of things, as well as that both before the cancer and during the cancer. So I kind of
didn't really think much extra of it.
Yeah, like I didn't. Like I had I mean.
You were like, I already beat all these other things, and this is just one more thing, and I'm just going to keep moving.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was also going through a lot as well once the cancer came in, so it was just like, one more.
That was everyone kept saying to him, aren't you afraid, Jared? Aren't you afraid you're going to die? I mean, how do you know this is the right thing? And he goes, because I know it. That's all. I just know it. And he kept saying that to people, and I'm just like, okay, well, and I think that's another thing that Jared has taught me and our whole family is, sometimes we don't listen to our kids enough. And Jared would probably still like me to listen to him more now because he's always saying, listen to me. But there comes a time where sometimes you really need to listen to him. And us as parents, you think we know it all. And we don't. And the time in your life that you stop learning is when you die. We're always learning. We always like to learn more things. And, be open-minded and listen to what your kids need and your family members, and not just your kids, but your family members. We hear a lot of, I did this because my husband wanted me to, or I did this because my mom wanted me to. Like, everybody needs to just listen to each other and support that decision that they're making,
Right.
And that's what I think Jared has taught me as well. And ironically, we wanted to share this with you today, is Jared's 19th anniversary of having his heart transplant. So 19
wonderful.
years ago today is when Jared was transplanted, which is kind of ironic that we're doing this interview with you because most heart transplants, especially pediatric, if you do research, they don't last 19 years. They either have to have another organ transplant, or a lot of people that we've stayed in touch with that had a heart transplant, they've had kidney transplant. Thank God, knock on wood, that Jared has his same heart. He hasn't had another organ transplant. His health has improved. And, we're very blessed that at 19 years, we've had this journey with him.
Yeah, and it sounds like Jared, that mind-body connection and the spirit, you've developed that, and I'm sure with all the things you're doing, it's helped the heart as well, and your overall health. So that's just amazing. What made you, after all of this, what made you want to start a Facebook page and write a book, and Lisa have a website and a YouTube channel? What do you want people to know?
Well, I started. I'll jump in first. I started the Facebook page because way back in the beginning, this is a funny story. We were looking for a support group for kids that did natural treatment, and we couldn't find one. And so we decided, well, let's just make a Facebook page so that we can share Jared's story with our family, because we had family, across the United States, and we kept getting tired of getting on the phone with people and telling them what's going on. So we started the Facebook page, and we were talking about a support group. And then we were talking about different things. Jared and I actually went to the store. We're getting stuff to juice. We were on our way home, and I'm like, yeah, Jared, like, let's think of something. Like, what, I don't know, like Kids Against Cancer, Kids Against this. And then we came up with, well, what about Kid Against Chemo? So that's what we named this Facebook page, thinking it was just going to be family. Little did we know when we started sharing our journey that people were going to pick this page up, and quickly it went to 5,000 likes and 10,000 likes, 15,000 likes, and I'm like, I don't believe this. And
that's incredible.
And that was within months. We were, it was crazy. And then Jared started doing videos on there because when you're going through a journey, there's something about sharing it, and we wanted to just tell people, how he's doing. I think that's how it started. We wanted to share with people how he's doing. And then I wrote the book about my journey with Jared first because I was trying to do a fundraiser. And so people are like, you need to share the story about the heart transplant, about his journey up until cancer, and share what you're doing. So I did that real quick as a fundraiser. And then, right, Jared, after you got well and stuff, he started saying, Mom, I want to help other people. I want to do a natural clinic. There's so many things I want to do. And so he actually wanted me to branch out and try to do a website, because I actually, when Jared got put on the front page of one of our magazines here in Arizona, I got offered a scholarship for a certification in nutrition. And they offered me a free scholarship, which was awesome. So I started doing that. And I thought, okay, well, I'll do local coaching and help people and put them in touch with doctors and just talk about normal detoxing. So we do local detoxing classes. I do outsource consulting work for people that are, all over the country that are like, hey, what'd you do? Can you put me in touch with different doctors? I think Jared, right? Why did you do your book? Because Jared's book, actually, he just finished. Was it at the fall? September? Yeah, I think it was September. What made you do your book? I think. Yeah. Why did you? Because I really don't even know. I mean, why did you?
Well, you should know if you read it. I said it.
Well, I did, but I forget. I read it and I cried probably 80% of the way through that book. There's a lot of things I did not know until the book came out, so that was a very trying thing for me. But why did you write it, Jared?
Well, it's funny because ever since I was little in this lifetime, I always wanted to write my autobiography. And so originally it was kind of just going to be, about like the heart, because I didn't, think or know I was going to go through all, the, other, millions and millions of things that I went through. So, it kind of just like gradually,
transpired, really, the book.
Right. And so once I finally got to writing it, I just felt that like this was the time to write it and put it out. And so I did. Overall, it probably took me about like a little over like 2 years or so.
You did a lot of notes first, right?
Yeah.
A lot of notes and gathering information.
Right. Yeah. And then, and then I got to, actually, typing it out. I actually started the notes maybe like a month or two or so before the cancer. So, and then, the whole cancer thing happened, so which, again, only added more to the book, so.
So you always wanted to tell your story.
Yeah. And, it just kind of like, as I was going through, things in this lifetime, it just kind of, things built more and more for my, story.
And I think, too, it's probably fueled, which I know now from reading this book, that he was having problems in school. He was actually being bullied pretty bad. And so he started notes and stuff about that, too. I didn't know he was being teased. The kids were saying because he had a heart transplant that he shouldn't be here, that he killed other people. And there was a lot of things going on underlying that. I kind of knew something was going on, but of course, typical teenager, Jared didn't want to share it with me because he thought I would go crazy, on the kids that were teasing him. So when you get into the depths of his book and really hear what he was going through, I always encourage, parents. I mean, Jared and I have always been pretty close. We've we spend a lot of time together in the hospitals, and just people say whether we're energetically connected. A lot of times, if I get sick, he gets sick, and there's a lot of things that, we're extra close, I think, because of what's going on. And with all that, there's some things that I still do not know as a parent. And you think you know, but you don't. So that's the big thing I tell parents too, is really, really be in tune to what's going on and do your research with your kids. Because Jared was having a lot of problems that I didn't know about right before he had cancer.
Well, that's very moving. Jared, you're the strongest teenager I've come across, and you're so inspirational.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you talking to us and having us for sure, and we hope that everybody will just hear our message and hear your message of what you're doing, and be open and follow your heart. That's the biggest thing, right? You tell people.
Yeah, follow your feelings.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great message, and your story is just so moving and very inspiring for others, and so important for people to understand that there is healing beyond chemotherapy, and there are alternative choices. And we just wish you continued good health and hope that you keep sharing your experience and your knowledge, because I'm sure you keep learning new things all the time on your journey for health. And again, your Facebook page is Kid Against Chemo, and people can find your book on your website, correct?
Yep. Love yourself, love your health, naturally.com.
That's great. Okay, we're definitely going to keep checking out your website and your Facebook page to learn more. And we wish you continued good health, and it was just so amazing to hear your journey. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Sure. Okay, I guess we'll stop recording there. Wow, that was really moving for me. And I'm sure that others are really going to be inspired by your story. I have a child with Asperger's too, and there's so many kids on the autistic spectrum now, and the bullying that goes on is pretty prevalent. So I think it's good for all parents to hear your message about connecting with their child and trying to find out what's going on beyond what we know.
Yeah, I think that's important because, in his book, he shares about how he almost took a whole bottle of his cyclosporin to kill himself, which I had no idea that Jared thought about doing that.
So Jared wrote the book pretty much on his own, and
Oh yeah.
Wow,
he
Jared,
didn't even
you're
want
amazing.
me to edit it. He didn't even want me to edit it because he's like, "You're not going to change anything, Mom."
I think that they talk about a certain type of personality that survives cancer, and Jared has it.
Yeah. I know what you mean, because I tell people, if you think you're going to die, you're going to die. If you think that you're not going to make it, you're not going to make it. Because I've read so many books about the mind and body with cancer specifically. And Jared has always had that mindset, But, interesting, I didn't go into this that much, but when he had the heart transplant, while we were waiting for him to have the heart transplant, he had to have an open heart surgery, and he was probably about 3 weeks old when we did that. He actually passed away on the table, and they brought him back.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
then he had the heart transplant, and as soon as they closed him up, he coded, and they had to bring him back. And our energy healer talks about that Jared has left this earth a few times, and whether I want to believe it or not, this has happened, and he really is a teacher. Our naturopath sees it with him as well, and that was kind of hard for me to grasp, because, you think of your child as your child, but I also believe that happened when he had cancer too, being that close with him and seeing what was going on. He was always connected, and he would even tell me, "Mom, if I pass away, it's going to be perfectly fine. It'll be perfectly fine. I'll be perfectly fine." And, there was never, and that's kind of what helped me as a parent, was that this was his journey. He wanted to go on it. I promised myself when he had the heart transplant, if he ever needed to be retransplanted, if there was ever another issue, he would make that decision, because I'm not in his body. I don't know what these medications are doing to him, right? And so I made that promise to myself and to him. And when he got the cancer, I said, what do you want to do? I need to hear, what you want to do. I'm not going to force you as a parent to do something you don't want to do. And that's a big thing for a parent to do. Because people said, I took a lot of slack from our family even, right? I mean, in the beginning, everyone's like, what, do you want your kid to die? And, I kept saying, I'm listening to my child. You just need to listen sometimes. But I was not very popular in, the parental community. They couldn't understand why I wasn't forcing my kid to do treatment.
No, well, when you go against traditional medicine, you always meet with controversy.
Yeah.
People don't understand that you don't need to follow the traditional route. And I think Jared just had such incredible intuition. It's just amazing. He is a teacher. I'm going to listen. And I hope, Jared, as you get older, I think you're going to have a lot more to say, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I actually have, I'm sorry. I actually have, at least, 4 or 5 more book ideas.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're amazing. And some people are just really connected to spirit in a higher level, and they're special people, and I think you have that gift. So keep writing, because there's more and more evidence coming out that we're energetic beings, and there's a lot more that we're learning about that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And I watch him around kids. His friends have kids, and the children's yoga and different things he does, and the kids just flock to him and stuff, and he's always wanted to do a natural clinic where kids could come and have fun and heal naturally. And I said, Jared, just keep telling your story, because you don't know what will happen, and
Absolutely.
That's the important thing, is to share. When you share your story, you can unlock someone's prison, so
right.
Just keep sharing. You change people. So.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm so happy that you're doing so well, Jared.
And you guys are out of Pennsylvania, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because we're originally from Clinton, New Jersey. That's where we grew up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we actually, my parents right now are in the process. My mom had a heart attack, and I had to fly back east. I just got back here actually a week ago. And we were fighting with the conventional doctors back there. They wanted to put her on all this medication, and I took her off half of it, and now she's doing so much better. And my parents are actually moving out by us in a month, and but we're all from that area. So now we have them moving out to us by Arizona. They're like, we want you to take care of us, because we've never felt
right. I think sunshine is the key too. Being outside, being with nature.
Yeah.
And the grounding, too, that you were talking about is so important, too. And I think these things are starting to come about. People are starting to realize. But I've always been before my time, too. And, it's against the grain, and you have to be a strong person, because you meet with a lot of resistance. But you just know in your heart that you're going in the right direction, and you have to just follow your heart. And little by little, I think things are starting to come around, even with the health food and things are starting to become more mainstream.
Yeah, we've seen it just in a few years from Jared's journey. And when he was sick, I used to actually carry him and put him in we have a lot next door that has grass, and put his feet in it and stuff like that. There's little things that I did that he would say, why are you doing that? And I'd say, I just want you to get out in the sun. And he was so weak and, pale, and I would lay him in the lounge chair and just say, just sit here and relax, just shut your eyes and relax. And I would actually sit and just pray over him. And I didn't share this because there's so many things that go through your mind, but when he was in the hospital and they told us he was going to die, it was late at night, and I got up, and, his biggest tumor was 10 centimeters in his abdomen. And I took my hands, and this is way before I even knew about energy healing, but this was a mom thing. And I said, Jared, I'm putting my hands over you, and we're going to pray that these tumors leave your body. I said, I want you to picture, now I'm trying to relate to a teenager here, so I'm saying, all right, I want you to picture that Pac-Man is in your body, and it's eating the tumors. And I put my hands over him, and I just started praying. He's like, okay, I'm picturing it. I said, their tumors are being eaten right now. And I could feel energy going through my hands. Didn't know what that was then, but I could feel it going into his body. It was funny. The nurse came in. It was probably about 10 o'clock at night. She came in and saw my hands over him, and she opened the door, and she looked, and she shut the door and walked out. She probably thought I was a nut.
She knew something powerful was going on in there she didn't want to interfere with.
But he related to it, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew that I was kind of like praying over my son and visualizing this cancer to be gone. And I was angry. As a parent, I was like, why are you in my child's body? You need to get out. And that's how we kind of like started that journey with just visualizing that these, tumors were going to be gone. So
that's incredible. And that's really great stuff for people to hear too.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to edit some of this post conversation, and I think we got good stuff in there.
you could definitely do that if you want. We're fine with that. Let's stay in touch. And are you guys going to give us a link so that we can share it and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they'll edit this. Any conversation that we had, they'll just edit it, and they'll come up with the final podcast then, and we'll let you know when that happens and give you the link. Okay.
That way we can share it beforehand so that people, can go on your site and stuff. Okay, that's what we try to do, and continue to be linked up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're actually doing a local. We actually do a local. We're getting back into it now. They were going through some phases with it, but we do a support group through Healing Strong is the name. They're a nonprofit out of Georgia, and they have cancer support groups all over the United States.
Yeah, I'm actually interviewing them soon.
Oh, cool. So we know Susie and Courtney and stuff. Awesome people. Well, we're part of they started this, like trial run to do these support groups, and there's none in Arizona. So they asked us last year, would you guys be willing to do one? And it started out slow, but now we're getting more people. And so now we're really launching it in this area, probably in spring. And it's going to be at our naturopath's office, because we've had so many people that are like, well, if we had a cancer support group, we would go. So we just love them. So we're teaming up with them to help as well, because there's not a lot of support groups out there, unfortunately.
And I think that is a big part of the healing process.
Yeah. I had nobody. Yes.
Yeah.
It really helped when we got with like-minded people. It helped the whole family, because it really is a family journey.
Well, look, you made it happen. You found your need and you made it happen. That's what you two seem to do. Really amazing. And Lisa, you're so strong too. I mean, he's so lucky to have a mom like you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. I think we're a good team for sure. I tell him, thanks for picking me to be your mom. Sometimes I wasn't so thankful, but he's taught me so much, and he's actually taught his older brother so much. His grandparents. I mean, if you're open, you just need to be open, and that's what he does, and he admits from that, his personality and so forth. So
yeah. And share about the energy work you're doing and grounding and things like that, because I think people, they need to know more about that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. That's Jared's actually passion right now, right? That's probably your biggest passion, I would say, is telling people about that, right?
Well, my passion in general is just to help souls heal and to enjoy life and have fun. Those are my two passions in general. But yes, that is one thing I want to focus on, is spreading more about the universe and spiritual healing and essence and that whole
I think it's really important,
energetic thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he really does, he really walks the walk, because I'll tell you, the other morning I was running around like crazy trying to get to our naturopath's office, because we had a client, and I was trying to get my juice and my containers and my supplements, because I actually put in my pocket, when I go. And we take healthy eating on the road. Like we prep so that we never have to stop again, go to a fast food restaurant or any of the other stuff. So I'm always going. And he looks at me and he goes, "Mom, I said, Jared, I'm really rushed this morning. I got to get to work. And, he looks at me and goes, you don't have to be. You don't have to be. And I'm thinking like, oh, yes, I do. And he's like, no, you don't. There's always a choice, Mom. And I'm like, okay. So he really does walk the walk. I mean,
he has such great insight too, Jared. Boy.
Yes.
You have it figured out. I want to call you again. Yeah. No.
Yeah, people will say all
it's tough here in Pennsylvania too, because I mean it's the end of January, but we've had a couple nice days, and I try and get out in the sunshine and get that sun in my retinas, and I had my feet out in the wet grass, and I think because I'm in a townhouse development, and people see me, they're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm kind of like you, Jared. I'm a groundbreaker, and I'm a renegade. That's why we're like-minded people trying to spread the word. So it's good stuff.
And he's gone, and when he's gone, like when he does his walks, he'll be gone for like 3 hours. Like this isn't just like I'm walking down the road. He walks down. There's like a spot in our area he calls a nature spot, right, Jared? Mm-hmm. And he's down in there, and the animals and stuff he sees is actually pretty incredible. We never see anything, and he sees all these animals and different things. He'll come back and tell us different stories, and you can just see. Actually, our neighbors tell us that your son doesn't walk down the road; he floats. That's what they all tell me.
Well, there's supposed to be something, and I'm reading more and more about this, the connection to nature with the grounding, the sunshine, and that connection to nature that is supposed to be paramount for health. They say it's not so much the food, it's more that. Yeah. So that's what I'm kind of really knee-deep in exploring right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe
definitely.
You can, share with us at some point, make a video about your nature walks and what you feel when you're doing that, and help people to understand how to do that, because I think that's where people are kind of lost.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we've done a lot of videos, but you haven't done anything like that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Let's try to do that.
Yeah,
well, I think, I mean, I talk to a lot of people. I'm a health coach, and I'm in this position to network with people, and you can juice and do those kinds of things. But I think if you don't go beyond that into these other areas, you're not going to reach optimal health. Right. And it's a lot tougher because you can't. There's no recipe. There's a recipe for a juice, but there's no recipe for how to connect with nature and to reach that spiritual place of peace. So
right.
So I think that's something that would really be amazing, since you get it, Jared. So I'm giving you some ideas here.
Yeah, we'll definitely think about that.
I know I would watch it. I know, I'm really curious.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty spot too, and I know anybody could find some spot in their area. So yeah, I'll definitely something he should work on. People really like his videos. That's the biggest thing. I
watched a lot of them. Yeah, they were amazing.
Yeah, sure.
That's
Well,
great.
thank you.
Well, thank you so much. This was really so wonderful to talk to you both and learn your story, and it's so inspirational. So I thank you again, and we'll let you know when the podcast is done, and we'll keep tuning into your site and
let's
trying to
stay
learn
in
more.
touch. That'd be great.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. You too. Have a good weekend.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jared. Bye, Lisa.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Beat Cancer Answer. If you learned just one thing today about how to prevent, cope with, or beat cancer, then we have succeeded in our mission. For more information or assistance, visit our website at BeatCancer.Org. Remember to sign up for our educational email series and get your free gift. Join in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, where you can meet others who think just like you. We appreciate all of your feedback and love your suggestions. Please also remember to rate us on iTunes. Your positive ratings help us to get discovered so we can save more lives. Thank you again for listening, and best wishes for good health from all of us at BeatCancer.Org.